All right, episode 11. We've done some kind of funny skit so far. The people love it. They're like, press and play, and we get straight into a little joke. But I'm thinking this time we have to go hard, okay? We need to really push forward with getting the people to share the podcast with their friends, okay? So any ideas?
Well, we need more customers, don't we? And as much as they go to our Spotify and they give us ratings and stuff, yeah, you're right. We need people to share it on their social media, perhaps? Facebook, stuff like that.
This is the thing. They're on our Instagram. They're interacting with us. They're liking our posts. We're telling them to get on there, telling us to email us, getting us stories. But at the end of the day, we want to grow. We want to grow, don't we? We want to get bigger. We want this podcast to grow.
Podcast money, right? You know, we've got 4 customers. We need more.
So let's just tell them in a funny way, because otherwise it's pretty pathetic, isn't it? You're listening to 2 fully grown men sit in their rooms, record that podcast, and they're like, oh, like me. So we need to try and think of a really funny way of just getting them to do it. That's clever.
We can't just tell them. Like, it has to be like a story. You know how we did a story last week? We can't just tell them because it's pathetic. Literally so pathetic. If we end up just, honestly, if we just do a thing where we're like, hey guys, just come and like share our podcast. They're going to cringe. They're going to hate it.
Like me. Ooh. Make all your friends like me as well, please, so I can do this more. It's just honest. It's honest. Bin this. I'm done. I'm finished. Okay, let's forget about it. Stupid idea.
Yeah, all right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 11 of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
Okay. Is that how it is it?
You say it the same way.
That's fine. We'll carry on. No. We'll carry on. It's fine. No. And my name is Hayden.
Why are you doing it like that? I don't speak like that.
Yeah, because you know very well. Every now and then you put in your little soft voice that you don't actually have
it's
for the
because,
podcast.
Hey, when I'm really close to the microphone, I don't want to hurt the audience's ears. I care about them.
I don't, obviously. When I start screaming my laugh.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, you've really thrown me off now because I thrive on routine, and now I don't really know what to do.
Say the exact same thing that you always say at the beginning. Come on, let's get this started.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden.
And this is episode 11. We are smashing through the double digits with our second double digit episode.
Wow.
Hayden, how does it feel?
Yeah, I'm smashing through a whole 2.
Whole 2 of them. And you know what? There'll be many more to come, I'm sure, before we reach the elusive 3 digits. That's the big jump, isn't it, actually? Going from 2 digits to 3 digit. Can you imagine going from 3 digit to 4?
Do you reckon? Nah, that's not happening. Do you reckon we'll make it to 100? That's a lot of episodes.
100 weeks. That's 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Can't put up with you anymore.
No, we're going to run out of stories.
It's been, well, as we all know, it's been half term. And truly, genuinely, don't think I've spoken to you, like at all.
No.
In about a week, almost since the last podcast. So for the first time in history, I'm going to actually be genuinely listening and paying attention to what you're saying in this segment of the podcast. Wow. So Hayden, what have you been up to?
Do you know, I know we haven't been talking that much, and I know you kind of got used to it as well, because what did happen was the last couple of days, if you look back through our messenger chat, maybe you're not even aware of it, but I would have messaged you, right? And then you hadn't replied for hours, and by that point, I've already moved on. I've messaged you something else. You've not replied to that either. And then I've got to a third thing. And then you might reply to that third thing and just completely ignoring the other 2 points in which I spoke to you that day. You've done that like 3 times in the last few days. I'll just be like, oh, whatever. Okay, I guess he doesn't want to reply to them.
So essentially what's happened is we haven't fallen into this trap of not talking to each other. I've just been blatantly ignoring you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry. I'll have a little flick through after, and if anything pops out that I want to talk about, I'll reply.
Yeah, that's fair enough. No, it's fine. Don't worry about it, mate. It's all right. I had a good time anyway away from you, so...
Go on, tell me what happened. Because you were, I had to organise the stag do. But ask me what my job is. Ask me, everyone. I'm not going to say, I'm the best man.
Yeah, all right. Go listen to last week's episode if you want to hear Dylan rinse me about trying to, feel good about being the best man. Anyway, so last episode I did mention that I was going on a stag do. I've been on that stag do now. It was a really good fun. We went up to the Lake District and we did gorge walking. And Dylan, I've actually just sent you probably haven't looked at your phone. I've just sent you a video.
For you to watch. You know full well you need to send me 3 different things before I even look at your messages.
Yeah. I sent you about 12 messages asking if you're all right. You've ignored me. But if you look at your phone, I've sent you a little video for you to watch whilst I'm talking of me jumping off of a gorge. So in the Lake District, we climbed up a gorge, which was pretty eventful. On the way up, the idea was there's like big pools of water that you jump in from the rocks. And one of them was 14 meters high, okay, which is pretty high. I'm not going to lie. It's like 3 stories.
It
4
sounds
stories.
really rubbish when you say things in meters and height.
I know,
doesn't
it does.
Because 14 sounds like nothing, but 14 meters is huge.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I thought. When I read that it was 14 meters, I was like, it's all right. It's a fairly big jump. Seeing it though, I was like, really, this is a cliff. This is a cliff, and we're jumping off.
And that's like 15 meters if you think about
exactly. Then that's basically 20 if you round it. So we basically jumped 20 meters.
25 meters if you take into account the feeling.
Quarter of 100. You know, it was like we were jumping a quart, and I just want you to see it because it was exhilarating.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty cool. I think we're gonna have to post this on our Instagram because it's one of those like optical illusions almost where you jump in and I expect you to hit the water much sooner than you do.
Yeah,
because you can't really tell how deep it is.
I tell you what, it was at that kind of height. I hit the water with such speed that when I went underwater, my right eyelid just completely came up, like the water pressure got in there. And I felt like my eyelid slapped the top of my forehead. Not that my forehead ends, but...
What?
Honestly.
No, sorry. I'm sorry. You can barely touch the top of your forehead. It's so far back. How's your eyelid getting?
Yeah, okay, all right. So maybe I'm exaggerating a bit. It felt like it touched my eyebrow. When I came up from the water, I was half expecting my eye to be like hanging out. Really dramatic. It was absolutely fine. It did nothing. And my eyelid just flicked up and back down again from the water pressure. But, oh man, it was so cool. And the dangerous thing about this jump was halfway down, there was a massive ledge jutting out, which earlier on in the walk, we were like, when we were climbing up in the first place, we actually climbed onto that ledge and jumped into that same pool of water. And then sort of later on, when we got to the top of the gorge, we could kind of circle back around the top. And then it was like, oh, you can actually jump from the top if you want. You just got to not hit that massive ledge that we were jumping from earlier. So we had to clear it. Not everyone did this one. I think it was even the guide.
I thought you were going to say not everyone cleared it.
No. Like half the group just didn't even attempt this one. It was a bit sketchy.
Yeah.
Even the guide was like, yeah, I don't normally take groups to this one because it's a bit dodge, but you guys seem really keen. So let's, if you want to give it a go, you can. A few of us did it.
That's so cool.
It was so scary, man. But I'm glad I did it. Like the feeling of just that, when you get like a thrilling experience, it only lasts for a couple of seconds, but it's such an unreal like adrenaline rush.
It's like when it's lunchtime and the lunch ladies come around and say there's spare dessert left. That rush.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
And it's a whole tray, and you can eat as much as you want. I had an amazing time. I would definitely recommend it if you're into like thrill seeking and that sort of stuff. Yeah, so cool.
I would say that you do look really scared in that video, which is quite funny. But then you do it, so fair play to you. Jokes aside, I don't think I'd be able to do that.
No,
truly. So very good. Anything else?
Yeah, so obviously I did that. We also went to the Crystal Maze experience in Manchester. That was really cool. They've got one in London.
Oh, I've done that.
Oh yeah, you've done it. I forgot you've done that before.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, it was really cool. Like it felt like a proper TV set. Like really realistic. Yeah. I expected it to be a little bit like, when obviously in TV,
it's gimmicky, right?
Like, yeah, they put all the effort into TV, and I thought for this thing it would just be like half there, but it was just like full on amazing. And the host taking us around was so good, like really over the top acting, and I loved that because that's just what you need, that energy. Yeah, had such a good time. I did feel quite good because there was one room. The first room I had to do was it was really weird. I walked in and there was this guy dressed as the Easter Bunny. It was like, I know, literally just like an actor, just walking around in there. He's supposed to be a bit strange. What weird.
A job.
And yeah, dressed as the Easter Bunny with his crop top on, so his belly was out. It was really funny the way he looked. And he made me sit down. He was like, right, in this room, there are going to be 3 questions. If you get 2 or more of them right, you get the crystal. And I was like, okay, here we go. So I had to sit on this like tree log, and it's really hilariously like Easter Bunny kind of Easter eggs everywhere, setting. And the first question, I want to see if you get it right. Okay.
Got it.
I'm just going to say what he said. He gave me 3 options, right? He said, on Easter Sunday, M&S sell which of the following type of Easter eggs the most? A, milk chocolate Easter eggs. B, white chocolate. C, dark chocolate. That was the question.
So my gut instinct is milk chocolate, but because he's asking and because it's M&S and because they're all dead posh, I'll say dark chocolate.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to tell you what I did because I felt really smug. Just before, the whole team were like questioning, doing the same sort of thing. They're like, dark chocolate, maybe it's M&S, bit posher.
Oh, it's closed on Easter Sunday.
Yeah. And I realised literally just before we were about to put an answer in, I was like, hang on a minute.
Very good.
Easter Sunday, the shops aren't open. It's a trick question. So I got that one right. And I was like, oh, yes. Because then afterwards, on reflection... I
was right to not trust the question, but I was wrong in my process.
Yeah, exactly that. So I think the kind of game in this one was, because you need 2 right, I think generally people get the first one wrong. And then they have to get the next two right, because the next two were actually just straightforward, like true or false kind of questions. There was no trickery.
Yeah.
But at this point, I was like expecting tricks, and I wouldn't just give him a straight answer. He was getting really like, just say it's true or false. So the next one, I'm going to give you all of them actually. It's interesting. People at home can have a go at this as well. So the next one was a true or false question. And the statement was, women buy more Easter eggs than men. True or false?
Absolutely true.
What's your reasoning?
Because I know for a fact in my family, my mum's the organised one who would always go out and buy them.
Yeah.
Like in a family, that sense of, but to be fair though, I go and buy them for myself, and I probably buy as much as they buy.
Okay, so you went through both our kind of layers of reasoning, and we sort of settled on true, because we did feel like just jumping on stereotypes. We were like probably more likely.
It's not a stereotype though. It's like an experience, isn't it? My mum. So my personal experience is my mum goes and buys them, and I know that's the same.
Yeah, sure. And we've all had that experience as well. And we were thinking, come on, our mums always the other ones going out and buying all the stuff. It was false. So we said true. It's false.
What?
Apparently men buy more Easter eggs than women. And I was like, it does make sense, because I've probably eaten more Easter eggs than we've bought for other people. So I've bought all them.
I don't think that's an experience that most households will have.
Yeah, but apparently it's men. So yeah, so we got that one wrong. And then there was one more question. So we're one up, one down now. We have to get this one right. And the last question was, I'm going to give you this to see if you can answer it. It was a percentage of the population wise, which country buys more Easter eggs, basically? The UK or the USA?
I would say the UK. And solely because obviously it's a percentage. So I don't know if it's trying to build on a trap for you to think there's way more Americans.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so I did that exact same logic. I had no idea, and I was like, clearly the trap is USA because it's massive, but percentage-wise, and I went UK, and UK was right.
Hey.
So we got the crystal for that one. But yeah, we had a great time. Crystal Maze was epic. I know you've done it. I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. If anyone else is thinking about doing it, they've got one in London and they've got one in Manchester. Right, so I've banged on about my exhilarating, exciting, super epic half term, where I've been doing so many cool, crazy things. What have you been up to, Dylan?
Absolutely nothing. No, I'm joking. No, we had, like I said last week, our niece came from America. So honestly, we spent almost every waking minute with her, which is not a bad thing. It's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about young children when they're in your family. It's just so enjoyable, isn't it? Just playing with you turn into a different person. I had my nails done this week. I had my nails done. I had extensions put in my hair because
really?
if a really cute 2.5-year-old comes up to you and says, "You want to come play?" and you say yes, it's as simple as that. You don't say no, and whatever they want to play, you get. The huge inflatable balloons that we talked about last week went down a storm. There was none of this like, oh, I'm a bit pensive about it, and I'll go and play with a cardboard box for a bit instead. No. Pony came everywhere with us.
Yay!
And every half an hour, you want to ride the pony? I don't know. You ride the pony. I was like, do you want to ride the pony? No, you ride the pony. I was like, okay. So I stood there on a balloon pretending to ride the pony, but she was very, very happy. And then she would carry on playing something else. But if I stepped off the pony, she'd immediately realise, like, no, get on the pony. Okay.
Do you still have the balloons?
Yeah, they're still there. They're still very slowly.
Did we ever put a picture on our Instagram of them? I can't remember if we ever showed them.
No, we will.
Oh, I have to get a picture.
There was this other moment where we were watching the football and it was Arsenal versus Liverpool, and there was a penalty, right? So there's a penalty about to be taken. And so then she decides that's the moment to go and grab the pony and start running up to us and throwing it in our face. And we missed the penalty.
No.
We didn't see it.
Oh.
But no, it's been really nice because I've managed to just avoid work as well, which is, avoiding work is really nice whilst you're doing it. But I can see myself in the next 3 or 4 days when I look at my to-do list to be like, I wish maybe I'd done some of this earlier. But equally, you just got to turn off sometimes. It's really important. And in this 2-week half term, the reason why 2-week half terms are so good is because you really can just block out a huge bit, can't you? And actually just say, okay, look, 2 or 3 days of work, this side or that side. Yeah. I did a little bit of work at the start. I've got a little bit more work to do at the end. But that's what it's for. And I don't want to fall into that trap of feeling a bit guilty of, oh, have I done enough work on my time off? I was like, what a statement. What a statement to say. How many professions ever would say that? Have I done enough work on my time off? It's like, no, it's fine. It will get done.
We should do a poll about that. Because I would put, if you put a poll out there that was like, do you feel guilty if you don't do a certain amount of work? I would be like, yep. because I still get that feeling every time. I've done loads of work this half term, annoyingly. I've just kind of dripped loads of things, and I'm just like, why? What am I doing? Why have I done this?
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, which I'm in a different position to you now because I've not got much left. I will probably just spend like half a day or the weekend maybe just finishing up bits. But yeah, it is annoying. And I did feel guilty. I was like, I better do something. I've not done anything for a day, so I better do something.
Well, the good thing is we've all rested, we've recuperated, we've got back a bit of our energy because I know we were flagging at the end of last term, weren't we?
Big time.
And I'm ready to hit the ground running this term, and I do feel good about it. So we're going to go and move on now to our next section because I've got a little surprise for you. So, Hayden, there is a surprise here. This is the first on the podcast because I have dropped off a box for you. You've got the mystery box?
Yeah, I've got it here.
I want you to grab the mystery box, pick it up. Hayden's got no idea what's in this.
Yeah, I've got it here.
So there'll be a couple of our listeners listening right now who know exactly what's coming up.
Oh, God.
And there'll be lots of them who don't. So
I don't even know.
What I've got here... Go on.
Can I open it or not?
Yeah, it's open it, but don't actually open it properly yet. So undo the box. I'm going to give you the context. Does it feel light or heavy? What do you think it might be?
It's really light to the point where I'm like, is it just a joke? There's nothing in here, sort of thing. I don't know. I feel like I should clock on. It's probably something related to the podcast, and I cannot think about what this is.
Can you have any idea at all what it might be? Because I've specifically told Hayden that we have to open this on the podcast, so he's right. It is to do with the podcast.
You know what my memories are like, Dylan. I'll see it and I'll be like, oh, of course. I genuinely don't know what this is.
Do you know what? If you see it, it's never been mentioned before to you. It's never been mentioned to you, but it's to do with the podcast. Okay, I think this is the moment. I want people who are just listening, by the way, I'm sorry that this is going to be quite a visual thing, but we'll explain what's going on after. If you're on the reels, you'll see what we mean very soon.
We'll make a reels.
Open it up.
Right, I'm opening now. Let's have a look.
Bit of paper.
Oh. Smooth the box. Is it one thing, yeah?
Yeah, you're nowhere near the mic, by the way.
Looks like a t-shirt or something. Let's have a look. Oh, no way. It says Underfed. Oh my God. Did you get this custom made?
I didn't even put it in for order. I got delivered to my house without even asking. I've got one as well. Look, I've got one.
That is amazing. Whoever's done that, you are a legend. It literally says on it, it's like a dictionary adjective. Maybe it means like really skinny. That's so funny. Oh man, I absolutely love that.
We've got one each, so now we've got some uniform for our podcast. But the story is, my parents dropped off some Easter eggs for us.
Yeah. And
in their outshed at the back, they have this printing stuff. They do printing for various like motorcycle groups and stuff that they're all involved in. And
that's so funny.
And yeah, so they've made this for us. They dropped it off to me. No request. I didn't ask for it. They were just like, we just wanted to give you this, and just surprised me with this thing.
That is 10 out of 10. Next time we do a podcast and forever after, even when we get to episode 100, I'm still going to be wearing that t-shirt, I reckon. That's so
absolutely.
Funny.
So that's so we've got one of them each. So in the next lot of reels, we'll have a uniform.
Oh, that's so good. So when people are listening back to this episode, when they are on episode 100, it'll probably be in the merch store by then, so you can pick up your own Underfed t-shirt.
Well, this is the next huge announcement, Hayden. We've got a merch store. No, we don't.
No, we don't. That's too much effort.
We don't.
Way too much effort.
For all the 4 people that listen, Rishi Sunak and Sandy.
Sandy. Oh, I hope you're listening again, Sandy. We haven't talked about you in a while.
How's your ironing getting?
Top fan.
I've seen it. There's a big stack. Get on with it. Crack on. Stop laughing. Jeez. But anyway, yeah, big shout out to my parents. Literally dropped us off. An Underfed top. Unbelievable.
Yeah. This is where podcast doesn't do it justice. Make sure you tune into our reels. Check us out on Instagram if you haven't already. Teach, Sleep, Repeat podcast. Is it Dylan or pod?
Teach, Sleep, Repeat podcast.
Okay, I always get confused. And our email is teach, sleep, repeat pod if you want to send us in any funny stories or just
at gmail.com.
At gmail.com, yeah. And just say hello. Tell us what you think of the podcast.
Right, let's get into this. We've been talking for a long time now, so we're gonna play the jingle again, and we're gonna get into our discussion, which we actually put on our Instagram. So the people decide, Hayden, what we talk about. Let's get going. Okay, so we put a poll out on Instagram. That's the place to be, guys, because we like to do polls. We like to get your opinions. We like to get your stories. And one of the most recent ones we did was just to give you a choice as to what we talk about in the pod, because we've got lots of ideas, but sometimes we just don't know which one to go for. And this week you have voted for us to talk about homework. So we're going to get into a bit of a debate here, well, more of a discussion, I suppose, because actually between Hayden and I, we haven't really spoken about this much together and explored each other's ideas. So this will be really interesting for us. And hopefully you guys can get in touch and let us know exactly what you think about the idea of homework, especially in primary school. So we know homework's a huge thing as children get older, as they become more independent learners. But I'm just going to ask you straight up, Hayden, do you think primary schools should set homework to children?
Oh, what a loaded question. I was even then I was just thinking about this whole situation and what's the best way to explain it. My core teacher honestly says no, like overall. It's like an overall no. But it's not just as simple as like a blanket no, because I think there are plenty of children and families who greatly appreciate homework, and it goes a long way for that child. That child will actually enjoy doing the homework because they really, really want to develop, a certain knowledge or whatever. But I also think the majority of children, it's not a positive experience at all. I think the cons outweigh the pros for most children. That's kind of my instant gut feeling. Maybe I can go into more detail in a minute, but I don't know. What's your sort of thoughts on it?
I'm actually quite happy because we certainly aren't as closely aligned as we normally are on this topic. Okay. Because again, there's nuances, and this is the problem with polarized debate always in everything, isn't it? Where you have to pick a side. And if I had to pick a side, I would say that we should set homework.
Right.
Okay, because I did ask it in a specific way as well, which might draw out more of a conversation in terms of should schools set homework. I think it's a very different conversation to should schools punish children for not doing homework.
Okay.
Should schools have certain expectations for homework, etc., etc. I think schools, we absolutely need to set homework. The simple reason is there are a lot of things that we as teachers can deliver in an hour-long lesson, in a discrete lesson, where, for example, in maths, we might teach them over a couple of days how to do short multiplication, how to find a fraction of an amount, right? For an example, or in history, we might teach them, look at some sources, primary sources, secondary sources about certain invasions of Britain, etc. I think we can teach them that really well and succinctly in an hour or an hour and a half. I think the biggest problem that we have with other types of learning is we can't do that. For example, things that come to my head straight away are times tables. We can't just teach times tables. We can't teach children how to memorize their times tables in an hour-long lesson. We can do times table lessons where we practice and teach techniques, but you have to practice them constantly. It has to be like a drip-fed thing. And we don't have that ability as teachers to do that constantly. And also reading. We're teaching lessons, actually the act of just reading out loud with 32 children in our class. That's impossible for us to listen to the children read as much as is required. So there has to be a level of expectation, or maybe the word is recommendation. And this is where it gets tricky, because there'll be lots of people saying, no, this should be an expectation. You absolutely have to do this, in the same way that you absolutely have to come to school and you absolutely have to have the curriculum taught to you. We say that, and some people extrapolate that to homework and say, no, you have to do this. You have to read this. You have to do that. This is where I kind of sway to the other side, because I'm not comfortable always as a professional telling people what they have to do at home. And certain children might have certain barriers, or it might be a real slog for some parents to get some children to do certain things for whatever reason. I think we can set really clear expectations and really clear reasons why something should happen, and facilitate that, and give options for that to happen. For example, at home, times table rock stars, get a subscription for the children, have a huge library with access to lots of different books that are at their appropriate level. I think as schools we need to facilitate that, but there is this just middle ground, grey ground, where there's actually a lot of disagreement in education, isn't there?
Yeah, I think until you said reading and times tables, I think I was kind of streamlining my idea of homework to the stuff beyond that, like extra like worksheets or like workbooks and things that sometimes schools will set. Because now you said that, I'm not necessarily changing my opinion, but I'm just adding more to it, like another layer of thought. Because reading, I'm sort of like, actually, I do expect that to be done. I genuinely do expect reading to be done, because the correlation of the studies show that the correlation between reading and general academic achievement is undeniable. It's so well correlated. So it's like, yeah, of course you need to read with your child as much as possible. And times tables is, again, you're right. It would be a really big waste of time if we spent all that time at school doing it. So yeah, you kind of do need to practice them at home because they have sort of a fundamental foundation for a lot of areas of maths. So yeah, you do need to learn them. But I think that's where it stops for me, but perhaps. And maybe I'm just sort of in the middle, because after that, I just don't think we need to set any more homework. I don't think we should. I'm sort of I actively encourage not setting any more homework than those two sort of really essential foundations. And I think the core reasoning for that is because I think school's long enough already. I think there should be a limit to how much time children spend of their life learning and doing, education. And I feel like we're already at that limit. The children spend so much of their life in education. They need downtime. They need to go and have fun, explore the world, to go and do whatever they like doing, their hobbies and things like that. I think that's so important. So the big con for homework for me, homework that goes beyond those kind of the reading and the times tables, is it takes away from that time. And the majority of children, certainly from my experience, do not want to do that. They resent it. They end up then disliking school because, it's that annoying place that makes me stop playing with my friends outside or going on my Xbox or doing whatever they want to do in their free time. I hate school now because they make me do all this homework. And then when I don't do it, I get in trouble. Which, like you said, opens up a whole nother conversation of, should children be punished or in trouble to any capacity for not completing homework? Let's think of like a 7-year-old, for example. What's your thing? I'm going to ask you a question now. Let's say you're in a year 3 classroom, right? You've got a 7-year-old and you've set them. Let's start here. Let's start with reading and times tables. So you haven't set them anything additional. You've asked them to read 3 times a week, let's say 10 minutes a time minimum, and you've asked them to spend 10 minutes practicing their times tables. And they come into school the next week, they haven't done it. What do you think you do? And also, what do you think the kind of general consensus is of how we should approach that situation as educational staff?
So the first question I always ask myself is, why are we setting homework? That's the first question when I'm trying to reason what to do, right? And in this situation, we are setting kind of like a minimum expectation, right? I don't think there's a single school who doesn't expect children to read at home and learn their times tables. So with the context of it's the minimum expectation, why are we setting this? It's for their academic achievement. Okay, that's the reason why, because we know it's proven that if they practice these things, they will have a boost academically, which is our goal as teachers, one of our main goals. So my opinion in that is the end goal has to be to find time for the children to do those things. Okay. I would not want to characterize it as punishment. That's what I would really avoid, because truthfully, how much control did that 7-year-old have in doing their homework or not at home? I don't know, and we'll never truly know.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't know whether it was because the parents said, "Oh, you don't have to do that. Don't worry about it." Or maybe the parents have battled massively to try and get them to do it, and it was a huge thing and it ruined family weekend because the child just didn't want to do it. I don't know. And honestly, that's irrelevant to me, because actually I want them to do 30 minutes of reading a week minimum, and I want them to do 10 minutes of times tables practice a week minimum. So my thought there is, cool, I'm going to facilitate that time somewhere in the school day. Now, this is where the grey area comes in, because there's no time in the school day. So when do you do that? Do you do 10 minutes at lunchtime when they could be out playing on the playground? Do you do 10 minutes at an assembly time when you actually might want to be doing something else in another intervention group that you've got? Or do you do it in the morning before they get in, in that free time, maybe where they come in and do some reading? Actually, you're going to go and listen to them actively read at that point, because we do have reading built in at school, don't we?
Yeah.
But the overall thing I'll say for that is, I think you have to go back to why you're setting homework. I don't think with a 7, 8, 9-year-old or primary school in general, we're not setting homework to teach responsibility as much yet. We're setting these foundations because they're critical to their education. So I think we have to find the time to fill that in. I wanted to come on a point that you just said a minute ago, because I'm interested to see if you would stick with what you said or maybe redefine what you said, because it was really interesting to me about how you're saying we've kind of maxed out on the child's education, like in terms of the amount of time they spend in school and it's taken away from their other stuff. But I would just add to that, maybe like extrapolate, see what you think, as actually we're not, because children are always learning. They're always being educated, right? If they're on a nature walk, for example, on a Sunday afternoon, and the mum goes, "Oh my goodness, homework's due tomorrow. We haven't done that times table practice that we said we'd do."
Yeah.
It is cutting short that nature walk, which the child might love. Like you said, you loved going outside last week, doing some drawings, learning about birds, the different fauna that they can see, and having that kind of enrichment is still education. I don't think there is a limit for education, and I'm sure that's what you meant, but you can clarify in a second. But there's no limit on education. But I think maybe what we can clarify is a bit that, I don't think we need to intrude so much on that home life and that home experience. And they've got dance class that evening, or they've got this. And if it comes to the detriment of that, then it starts becoming a problem.
I think, if I was to redefine it, I'm talking about prescribed learning.
Formal education, right?
Mandatory academic studies. Do you know what I mean? Maths, English, topic, those things. I think, the children don't have a choice if they enjoy it or not. A nature walk, they probably, if they're going on a nature walk and learning, they're probably enjoying it, and it's passive learning. Yeah, sitting down doing your times tables is not passive learning. It's active, prescribed work to do. So I guess, that's probably quite important to redefine that.
I think what links into that really nicely, and maybe we could talk about this, is actually also, is there a problem with the school celebrating and giving options for further homework given the choice? And I don't think there is. And I think about those projects we talked about that we did when we were primary school children. We talked about last time in our primary school memories that we loved. And there's certain, for example, I know in every school I've worked in, there's always been termly or monthly or projects that the child has freedom to do. There's no expectation to do it. They can take it as far as they want, but they bring it in at the end and then they show it to the class. And I think that's fantastic as well, because I think it's what we can do as a school is facilitate and advise on minimum expectations for an academic point of view, but also why not celebrate someone going above and beyond in a different aspect?
Yeah, I guess you just have to be really careful not to have any kind of like passive aggression or like making children that haven't done that thing actually feel like bad, like worse. Do you know what I mean? It has to stick as a positive reinforcement thing of like, wow, these children are doing great and you could get there as well, and that would be awesome as well. Rather than like, these children are doing great, look how terrible you are, we're showing you this because you're so bad and you need to be like this. It's not good enough. Like, I think there's you have to be really careful, I think, with that sort of system not to do that. Have you, just a personal question, like in your teaching career, have you ever got cross at someone for not doing their homework?
Only when we've had a very specific conversation and they've promised me that they'd do something.
Right.
And they're not even cross. Honest, truly, as a teacher, and whether you have to separate yourself and just think, my goal for you is that you are doing this homework because I want you to progress. The times tables are tailored to exactly what you need. The reading's exactly at your level. And I know if you do this, that you'll progress. So when you say cross, maybe I'll get frustrated and think, oh, if you just would do this more often, I think it would help you. Like, I want to help you. Like, let's do this. I think the only time I've ever, and of course you'll say to the children, homework's really important and I'd really like you to do this. And the fact you haven't done this, it does frustrate me, because you said to me last week that you would definitely do it this week. And I believed you. And then you haven't done it. And I'm just wondering why, maybe. And then you can kind of go from there. And I think that's completely legitimate, because that's almost a different level of, giving someone your word and just teaching them that that's quite an important thing to try and uphold. But in terms of when you look at homework not being done, and what you normally see as a teacher is patterns. You see patterns of homework not being done. It's not as if every week there's 3 different people who haven't done their homework.
Yeah.
You're always going to get children who are in that routine and always did a homework because they love it, or maybe, and they take themselves off and do it themselves. You're always going to get the other children who maybe put up a battle or don't have as much support in terms of, a parental figure saying we have to do this and forcing it. You see a pattern. So actually, what's the point of getting angry at children who are in that pattern? It's been 2.5 years. They're not going to suddenly start if you have a go at them. So it's all about what you're trying to get out of it and trying to get the children to do this thing because it makes progress and it helps them academically. That's the end of it. So what I'm going to do as a teacher is thankful for everyone who does it at home and big them up and say, well done, but then facilitate as much as possible the children who aren't doing it a chance to do it, because I don't want them to do homework so I can shout and moan at them. I want them to do homework so that they can make progress.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think there's a kind of, maybe I subliminally think this, but I'm trying to bring it to the forefront of my mind right now. But I think in any given situation, like you said, there's so many different situations in which a child may or may not have done homework, right? So many different situations, very unique to each person. If there is going to be a net loss in their enjoyment for education or school in what you're about to do or say to them, don't do it. I think that's generally how I approach it. I will approach it so differently. If I've had a few grounding experiences over the years. For example, I can think of one. It's happened a few times, and it's probably something people can relate to because over the years, it's just a bit of a stereotype that sometimes children fall into. So, I've taught the classic child who is actually quite bright, quite intelligent, and will ace tests and things like that. But never ever has their reading record signed. But I know they read because when it comes to quiet reading time, that I'll be reading a book and every now and then I'll monitor and be like, okay, they're on a different book now, or they're on a different book again. So they're clearly reading. But they never get their reading records signed. And reading records are a really classic thing in primary schools. Like most schools do use some sort of reading record, whether it's paper or digital. And the gut sort of the policy of the school will be, you need your reading record signed a certain amount of times to prove that you've done the minimum amount of homework. And if you don't, there might be some sort of punishment. Or like you said, there might be a more positive reinforcement, kind of just facilitating of time to do it. But I just remember just one time, I was just going down that sort of robot route of this is the rules, you must do the rules. And I did. I just sort of banded two children together. And it wasn't until I put them together, looked at situations where I realised they're completely separate. Neither of them had their reading record signed. One of them reads all the time. Their parent just never signs it. Just never signs it. And I was like, do you know what? That is not your fault. How is that the fault of the child? They're reading their book. Whatever. I'm not going to delve into their home life. I was just happy and I left them alone for the rest of the year. I was like, cool, you're reading. You're making progress at school. I'm not going to bother you. And then there's the other child who might lie every single week. Oh, I couldn't read this week because I had a football match on. It's like, really? It's 10 minutes though. And I couldn't do that. Oh, my parents said that I wasn't allowed to. It's like, well, no, you're just making that up. And because I spoke to your parent last week and they said, you had a big paddy and you wouldn't do it. So you got those completely different children. And it really grounded me because it made me not just jump into, this is rules. You have broken the rules. Now you're in trouble. That wouldn't have been fair, I don't think, for the first child.
No, and it goes back to what we said, right? Why do we set homework? I think if you ask yourself that question every single time you're about to deal with something like this, I think it will help you in what you then do as a reaction. Because the reason we set homework is so that children get this extra basic help of something which is better off being drip fed over time.
Yeah.
Even down to something like there are certain objectives in the curriculum which I think are suited to be being taught at home. Right? Not just the basics, times tables and reading, which are so obvious. Things like telling the time.
Yeah.
I think that telling the time on an analog clock is something which has way more power in being taught constantly through the day. Oh, what time is it? If you're doing 1:15, ask your kid at 1:15, what's the time now? Oh, it's 1:15. What do you think it might be if it's there? That kind of learning. It fits the drip feed method, the constant method. Times tables certainly does, reading certainly does. And there'll be some things on the curriculum where I'm stood there delivering an hour-long lesson. There's no way you can teach a child how to read a clock in 1 hour. No. It's absolutely impossible, because what we'll see as well is no matter what class you have, there will be the biggest range of ability ever when you come to teach that lesson, because some children might have been bought a watch from when they were 5 years old and just happen to have picked it up. Some children only ever go on their iPad and they see a digital clock and they've got no idea what the hands mean because it's just not been taught. That is an example there of actually, what do we want for the children? We want them to progress academically and learn things. What's the best way of that happening? Well, for times tables and reading, it certainly is doing it at home constantly as much as possible. There's a discussion to have, like there's other things that are more beneficial to be taught at home.
Yeah. Another one I can think of is measurement in context. So things like money, but also things like just distances and weight and things. I feel like they lend themselves so much to just real life examples rather than reading them out of a book or reading a definition of how long a kilometer is. It's like,
what does that mean?
Child can't conceive that.
But if you go on a drive or a walk, you can show them your car, when it tips over even on the mile.
Yeah.
But, oh, look, this is 5 miles. We've driven 5 miles. That's very different to yesterday, isn't it? Where we drove 1 mile. And they can kind of start building up those things. I think it's because it's really interesting because we've talked about it, haven't we? And obviously in our position as leading maths in a school, we've talked about this before, and we just thought, okay, well, how can we address this with our view of homework, which is obviously, I'm sure you picked up, of almost skepticism of trying to push it too far. We don't want to do that. But actually, how can we as school lead, like as teachers, sorry, how can we facilitate it? I think that's really key for me personally. Facilitating this learning, should someone want to take it up with them at home. And, giving options for little projects, giving options for, down, like you said, for measurement is perfect for baking. Just sending a letter home, and saying, oh, why don't you try this out this time if you want to? Given a cheap option, given an option that might cost a bit more money, but maybe the parents want to try that out. And just being inclusive, giving expert advice, but not piling the pressure on, because I just think it's counterproductive.
Yeah, I agree. I think sending out 5 worksheets across the term that are all like word problems with measurements in them is objectively worse than sending out a little project and being like, here you go, an optional project to do at home. Here's an ingredients list. Here's a couple of recipes you could do, and can if you want to facilitate this learning experience for a child, they'll understand. By the end of it, they'll understand these things. I do agree. There's more fun ways to approach that sort of stuff, because I've heard of schools like primary schools, which I always find hard to believe. I've heard of so many primary schools in our country that genuinely set homework like 2, 3, 4, or 5 times a week, and I'm talking worksheets. Like typically maths is the one that will go home. It'll be like a maths worksheet of every lesson that goes home. It's like 5 questions to do at home based on the learning. And I just think that's so much. And for some children, they'll love it. And ironically, they'll probably be the ones that are higher achievers anyway. And the children that really, really struggle with maths will hate every single minute of that, the majority of them. Some parents will be really supportive and they'll be like, thank you, because I can help my kid's really behind in maths and this will help me. But I do think the majority are just not going to be in that situation.
It's almost as like what we always say, and it's such a cop-out, but hopefully having listened to our conversation about it, people understand what we mean when we say there is no one answer as always. Every single situation is different. And I think that's why I feel like we're living in a culture lately where you kind of have to pick a side almost. And it's just nice to have a proper talk about it, because if this was a scale of 0 to 10, neither of us are at 0 or 10,
no,
quite clearly. And it's nuanced. There's lots of layers to it. And yeah, I actually really enjoyed that. And I'd be really, really interested. Go on.
I was just going to say, I think if we pulled it back around to the original question, I reckon we could answer it a bit more succinctly now. In this idea of, should schools set mandatory homework, that children must complete, or there's a sort of a punishment involved? That's kind of the original question. And I think, like you said, there's a big spectrum to that. I think the ultimate answer for me is still no. I don't think they should set it. And the kind of solution that I think has come from this is, but there should still be some optional activities and ways that we can facilitate that learning at home, should they want to, so that people don't miss out.
It's interesting, because I'm going to say now my answer is still yes.
Yeah,
I would say it's good. It's interesting, because to that exact question, should they set it? And I think it should be said as it's really interesting, because I'd still be like, yes, but for very certain foundational things. And I think that's where the but always has to come in. Yeah, because if someone heard you just say no, I can imagine some parents be like, what? What do you mean no? Like, of course it's good to practice. And if some people heard me just say yes, they'd be like, oh, here we go. Another teacher trying to take over our weekend with all the homework.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. I enjoyed that a lot. And what I do want to do, because something we lack, Hayden, clearly, is the parent point of view. I'd be very, very, very interested of any of you guys listening. If you've had children who went to school, or you've got children currently now who are in school, can you talk to us and tell us your opinion about homework? We'll share some on Instagram. But it'd be really interesting for Hayden and I to get that point of view from home, because I think we could probably predict what people say. They'll be for and against as always, but maybe you've got some specific stories and we want to hear your insights. So, either email us or get in touch on Instagram. We'd love to hear.
So moving on. Later in the podcast, Dylan's got a new segment for us. I have no idea what it is, so excited to find out about that. We've also got a funny story to finish off with at the end. But Dylan, I did want to just jump in with something, because I couldn't resist that toxicity. When you see it, I just want to talk about it and vent and moan. And it really harks back what I saw to what we talked about in our last episode. So I'm just going to read parts of this post that I saw on a forum to you, and then we can just have a quick discussion. All right?
Yep.
So this person said they're 50 years old, unblemished teaching career, been in the career, the whole time. Classic, just career teacher. Been a little bit ill recently, returned to work, and the head teacher said to them, and this is quotations, think about a fresh start at a new school due to the disruption caused by your absence.
What?
Okay, so obviously got this person's back up immediately. Like, what? What a thing to say. So now this person's been put on a support plan. The thing we discussed last time. That's the solution to this. Okay, you're on a support plan now, apparently. That's what it means when they don't want you
because
anymore.
she was ill?
Yeah, she was ill. She was off school. And the head teacher...
Nothing to do with her teaching?
Well, I mean, I don't know. There might be some layers we don't understand here, but it sounds like the context this person's giving is the head teacher's now decided that you should go and work somewhere else. The solution to that is to put you on a support plan, which I think are two very different things. It's just that classic example, again, of a support plan's being used to just get rid of a teacher. Do you know what I mean? It's not being used to support a teacher. It's being used to get rid of you.
This is exactly what we said the other day. And, I think sometimes we can maybe feel like we're retreating into our little hole of opinions, right? And, it's we're going to go on our podcast and say our opinions on things. But this is true. Clearly, we can see that. Like, it's not an opinion. This is what happens. And we spoke about it. You go on a support plan, and there is no guarantee that it's because they care about supporting you. There is a very, very big chance that they're just nibbling away.
Yeah, trying to make you feel rubbish, which is working. And this person's really gutted because they sort of finished their post by saying, I really want to fight for myself and other people in these kind of unfair circumstances. And they said, I'm genuinely not a poor teacher, as much as this support plan capability thing suggests. And just ask this question, how can this happen? Why are head teachers able to blatantly disregard employment law using made-up capability that's completely subjective, which is something I know we've briefly discussed before as well. This whole idea of it is subjective. One head teacher might judge you as, oh, wow, you're outstanding, you're an incredible teacher, and another head teacher might not. And the teacher that might not now has the power, to just ruin your career? Is that what we're saying? We're happy with that system, are we? That head teacher can just ruin it for you? I don't know. It just seems fishy to me.
And I still don't understand. Maybe it's just because we're naive or we just don't know. We're not involved. But who's keeping these people accountable? Because you just hear so many stories, don't you, of these certain people who have the power, who are in charge, who are doing this as a pattern over years and years and years. And because staff turnover is so high in these places, do you know what? 5, 6, 7 years down the line, people have forgotten because they've moved on to the next cool thing. They've moved on this, moved on to that. Yeah, they weren't there when it actually happened before. Yeah. And that must be part of the plan. And it's just this, honestly, if you're looking at a school, I promise you, the number one thing you should look at is retention. Look at the retention of staff, because teachers on the whole are actually hugely loyal. They're hugely loyal. They have children in their school they really care about, families they've worked with, staff members who are, the glue that keeps so many schools ticking over, because the camaraderie and the friendship. Moving school is a big decision. It's a huge decision. How many times have we heard teachers say, oh, that's it. This is my life. I can't work here anymore. And then they do 1 more year, 2 more years, 3 more years. Yeah. If a school has a high turnover rate of percentage, you can add a big chunk on it of teachers who want to leave as well, but couldn't find a job, or just at the last minute thought, no, it's easier just to get my head down.
Yeah.
Because I tell you now, that is the biggest indicator for me for a quality or a school that you just don't want to be in.
Bit of a red flag.
Turnover of stuff.
Yeah. However, I will jump in on that as well, because there is another sort of perspective of that, which is it's not mostly a red flag, but I have also seen situations where a school has had the same staff for a long time, and then perhaps like the head teacher leaves, and because like you said, people can be really loyal. You do sometimes find though that when a head teacher leaves, some of the staff kind of leave as well, because they were sort of really loyal and really stuck in their ways with that particular head teacher. And when a new head teacher comes in that might not intrinsically be bad or, like toxic in any way, they're just a bit different. They've got their own stamp on things and new ideas. Sometimes I have noticed that can cause a bit of a big staff turnaround as well. But I think you're right in terms of the big red flag for me is if that consistently happens for the next 10 years, and every year there's a huge turnover of staff just constantly, and it's the same head teacher, same SLT, it's like probably a bit of a red flag that might not be the best sort of positive place to work at. Not guaranteed.
Hey,
it's just a flag.
It turns out, after what we just said about homework, there's nuance to this. There's not an obvious answer. Who would have thought?
Yeah, but that's all I wanted to talk about with that bit. It was just a little thing. We mentioned it last podcast. I thought, there you go. There's a bit of proof that we weren't just, like you said, making up our own little world it does happen, and it's such a shame.
But talking of making up your own little world, welcome to my next segment that I've just completely made up.
Yeah.
Now this was inspired by a picture I see. I guess it's a meme. I guess it's just online.
Right.
And I find myself going down these rabbit holes, and this was relevant to teaching, and I just thought it was really funny because we've spoken about this before, but the theme here is just hilarious test answers or just children putting down something funny. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to start it off by just reading out the sheet that I found, which inspired this. So I'm going to, what this sheet is, there's two parts to this segment. Number one, I'll explain in a second. Then number two are test questions that I'm going to test you on.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the real answer, which is what the kid put. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
the first part of this is a list of sayings, like idioms that we have. Okay. And the child was given the start and then had to finish it off. All right. So I'm going to give you the start of an idiom.
Okay.
And then we're going to compare it to what the child said. So you're going to try and finish it off for me. Then I'm going to tell you if you are right or wrong based on the child being the teacher, how the child would mark it.
Expose me now. I'm going to give the same answers as the children.
Yeah. For example, let's start off here. All work and no play makes Jack
sad.
Happy, apparently, according to this kid. Okay, so we're going to do ones like that. I'm going to read them out to you, and then we're going to find out what the true answer is. Ready?
Right, got you.
Okay, number one.
Okay. Don't
bite the hand
that feeds you. Don't bite that.
No. Don't bite the hand. It tastes bad.
Very literal. You have to tell me if my one's right, by the way. I'm not that confident.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, I'll tell you if it's actually right in the real word.
Okay,
correct.
Yeah.
But the child thought it was because it tastes bad.
Yeah, got you.
Next one. Don't look a gift horse.
Oh, is that in the face or something like that? I don't know. I don't know what the real one is.
Should have got you to do this. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth is the correct one.
Okay.
This child put, don't look a gift horse to me.
All right, nonsense. Don't look a gift horse to me.
When the cat's away.
God, I don't know these idioms. I don't know them. When the cat's away, don't sleep in its bed. I'm trying to be on the child level now. What do they put?
When the cat's away, you will pay.
Oh, that's
ominous.
Scary.
Ominous.
Yeah.
Next one. You should get this one, I hope. People in glass houses
shouldn't throw stones.
Correct.
Yeah.
However, the right answer is are rich.
That's so true. That kid's nailed that one. People in glass
houses are rich.
I thought it was going to be a literal one. Like, people in glass houses can see everywhere.
Next one. If at first you don't succeed,
try again, or try and try again, whatever it is.
Not according to this child. Stop.
That's like Michael Scott from The Office. Just getting a quote wrong. That's so good. If at first you don't succeed, stop. You can't stop. You can't do it.
You can't do it.
That's brilliant.
Next one. This is one of my favorite ones. Don't count your chickens.
Oh, I can't remember the. Go on. What did they put?
Don't count your chickens because they need privacy.
So what did the children, what's their task to actually try and finish the idiom? Like, try and work out what it was?
To finish the idiom off. Right. So that they were given what I'm giving you and they had to write out the rest.
Yeah. I mean, that's hilarious. I feel like we should do that task just because it'd be funny.
I think we should. And I really want to do this.
Do you know what the real one is for that one? Don't count your chickens.
Don't count your chickens before they hatch or something.
Oh, okay.
Or,
yeah.
Like, because, they might not. I don't know.
These are quite old phrases, aren't they?
Hayden, please don't expose me and my lack of idiom knowledge. This is me exposing you. Next one. Don't put all your eggs
in one basket.
Yeah. But according to this child, don't put all your eggs in there. That old saying. And you say, don't put your eggs in there.
Don't put your eggs in there. Yeah.
Okay. And the last one. Again, it's a really good one. Okay. It's all fun and games until... Oh, God, what is it? Someone gets hurt or something like that? I can't remember. Until Darth Vader comes.
That's true. They've seen Rogue One.
Oh, man. I just thought it was so brilliant because some of them make sense, but just don't count your chickens because they need privacy.
That last one, though. That last one is like... perfect depiction of child's imagination, and what I love about children's imaginations. It's just they just latch on. That kid obviously had watched that film and loves that at that time. I was like, that's a thing. Everyone will know what I mean here.
Yeah, it shows a good understanding of like what the saying means. Really, it's like it's all fun and games until something awful happens. Like, yeah, Darth Vader's here. Like that. Who's enjoying that?
What's the most awful thing that could happen? Darth Vader.
Right. So, off the back of that, I've gone away and I found some questions.
Yeah.
Okay. With some child answers at the bottom. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to read through some of my favorite ones. Do you want to answer them, or do you want me just to go straight in?
It depends if you think I'm going to embarrass myself or not.
Okay. I think you should try and answer them, because if you do embarrass yourself, even better. Where was the American Declaration of Independence signed?
Washington, D.C., I presume.
At the bottom.
Oh, God, I should have gone for that. That was a safe answer. Good.
Okay, this is from an art lesson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your favourite hue?
As in that favourite colour? Like red, blue, I don't know.
No, Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. Oh, good. Yeah.
It was supposed to be colour, obviously. HUE.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Next one. Oh, it's like a longer one here. Alice places a prepared slide on her microscope, but when she looks into it, she can't see anything. Suggest one reason why not.
There's like a cap on the bottom of the microscope or something.
She's blind.
Oh my God. That's so brutally. Oh, I mean, it's not wrong.
I mean,
it's not wrong, is it?
It's just like factual. Like, could she see it? She was blind.
That honestly sounds like a setup to like one of those, just like a pub joke. Do you know what I mean?
What, are you just like really blunt at the end?
You know, it's like so and so walks into a bar. You get those classic jokes, and there's just always a silly.
Yeah, ouch.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Okay, next one. I want you to do this, Hayden. I want you to do this genuinely.
Okay.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh wow. Okay.
That's L3. Well done. They put, I am a rebel.
I am. That's 4 words. Brilliant. What? Oh, because they're rebellious. I get it now. Right. You're looking at me then like I couldn't count to 4. I was like, oh, please don't say I would have counted to 4. I get it.
The idea that you thought the joke there was just that they couldn't count to 3.
Wrong. No, it was deeper. It was way deeper than that. I'm a rebel. I've written 4 words. I get it.
Exactly.
Clever.
Right. So next one. Name 6 animals which live specifically in the Arctic.
Oh, I can't be bothered. Go on.
2 polar bears and 4 seals.
Such a clever answer.
The best thing about this was they'd written 3 seals and crossed out 3.
What? Oh, no.
So they put 4 seals. I mean, again, wrong? I don't think so.
No, not really.
I wonder how many people have actually, who are listening to this at this very point in the podcast, have listened to every single episode. I want to do a little test. If you've listened to every single episode and you've got this far in this episode, because we're near the end now, I want you to go to our Instagram, send us a message, and I want you to do an emoji of Hayden. You can pick what random emoji should they send us, and it's like code for they know exactly what we're talking about.
Well, how about even further? It's an emoji that only makes sense to us because they've listened to the podcast. So something that we'll know, we'll know because we've listened to the podcast, but it wouldn't really make sense to anyone else. Like they would just think it was a random emoji.
Okay. So they need to think of one of the moments from the podcast they've listened to, summarize it in an emoji, send it to us, and then we can try and guess which part of the episode
that would be a fun game. I like that. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, cool. Rishi, I know you're watching, mate. You send me one of those water ones for your little pool you got in your garden, pal.
So just before we wrap up this podcast, Dylan, earlier on you mentioned like camaraderie at schools and how that helps retention and all that. And it got me thinking about our camaraderie. And it led me down. Yeah, me and you, and people in general, I guess, but me and you for this story. And I want to finish with like the funny story segment. So it just reminded me.
I'd call it more like a corporate relationship.
Oh, a business, kind of working business relationship.
Like a transaction almost.
Well, this week has proved that because you didn't answer any of my messages in the 3 times I did message you. So cheers for that.
I'm sorry. I don't think this truly.
It's a true bromance. So I was thinking back to, our career because we spent a lot of time together at schools. And there's this one thing I remember, which is where you've come up with some funny names for me, right? Me and you were chatting about it and we were laughing because you were just kind of rhyming characters' names, but making it about my baldness, which is all, a good laugh. So here are 2 things 2 names that Dylan's come up with, right? And these two names, I've actually then just like, if you've listened to our earlier episodes, you'll know that we just try to teach the kids a bit about humility and just having a bit of fun and learning to just take the mick out of yourself a little bit every now and then, not being so hard up about everything. So I said to my class, I was like, right, Mr. Price has come up with two names and I need you to vote on what the best nickname for me is. And the two names were Lord Voldemort and the other one.
It's the classic.
Yeah, Lord Voldemort and Goldilocks and the Three Hairs. So I presented that to my class. I don't know. What do you have a think about home? Because I think there's a clear winner there.
We'll do a vote because we said straight away. And from me, my point of view, because I came up with them, I was so much more proud of one of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite clear that Lord Voldemort is quite lazy. Because, Voldemort is bold and it rhymes with bold, vold. But when I came up with Goldilocks and the Three Hairs, I was so happy with myself.
So the kids, though, I agree, by the way. Goldilocks and the Three Hairs is genius. It's got the double rhyming in there. It's really clever. But yeah, the kids love Lord Voldemort. I think it's just it's Harry Potter, they can just relate to it and it's just funny to say. So a quick story for you, Dylan.
Okay.
This week, I had a text message from someone I know, not super close, but I just know this person. And they messaged me saying that they were out and about in town and in a fish and chip shop, bumped into a family they sort of know as well. So just that classic bit of chit chat, and they were with their child, right? And just making a bit of small talk, that my friend, the person that messaged me, said to the child, "Oh yeah, so what do you do? Do you go to where do you go to school? Blah blah blah, do all that sort of stuff." And turns out they go to the school that I work in. It turns out they're in my class as well.
No.
And he said, "Oh, do you know Mr. Stevens then?" And this child said, "Yeah, that's my teacher, but we all call him Lord Voldemort." And my friend just texted me this, obviously in stitches, like, what on earth are you doing with these kids? Why are they calling you Lord Voldemort? Yeah, fully exposed. Me turning myself into a meme.
Yeah. How much do you regret telling them?
Oh, not at all. Because to me, I was like, all right, I'll get my revenge. Don't worry, and we'll have a good laugh about it. And that's what I love. Again, going back to teaching, I love that sort of stuff about teaching. I'll have a proper laugh. We will on Monday next week. I'll mention that, and I'll do the whole pretending to be annoyed thing, build it up, and we'll have such a good laugh over that moment, and it'll hopefully be something memorable. But I just thought it was funny how your silly names have got to the point where a child in a fish and chip shop refers to me as Lord Voldemort to strangers. And it did make me think about other stuff we've done. So there's
so much. I thought of one straight away.
Go on. Yeah, go
on. Because it was one of my favorite things I've ever done. But like just for the context for everyone who might not know, we've worked in schools with each other across the years. Sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't, but for years and years now, and it's just a constant back and forth between Hayden and I, just trying to get one up on each other, just constantly trying to undermine each other in front of other people in the school. But everyone knows it's a joke. It's a well-known thing. And one of my favorite things I ever did was I'd borrowed your stapler once because I don't have a hand stapler.
Once.
And you're the guy, I know you, I know you've got it. So whenever I need one, I'll come and grab it off you. And I went in to grab it one time and you weren't in there. And I was like, oh, well, I really need it. And I know where it is. So I'm just going to go and get it out of the drawer. And what I noticed was Hayden's laptop was open with his afternoon lesson ready. Because obviously, we don't really get time at lunch, as we've talked about before. So you get everything ready as soon as you can. That's one less thing to think about. The smart's ready. And he was eating his lunch down the other end of the school. So I knew for a fact that Hayden had a picture of himself from a maths lesson he did ages ago, saved on his computer. And it was it wasn't it wasn't inappropriate or anything. It was just a funny picture of you.
It's embarrassing. Yeah.
So what I did, it was embarrassing. It was from when you were at school, like I said, when you had your lovely locks of hair. So what I did was I got that photo. I went at his laptop. I got that photo. And I was really proud of this. I basically copied it into his lesson, made a new slide, like 3 down. So that when he's teaching his lesson, he would press next. And I stretched the photo to fill the frame. So you're already warped. Your face was so wide. You could see your hair and your smile going across the whole thing. But the thing I was most proud of was that I also put it in again, 3 slides from the end, because I know Hayden has this kind of idea of just checking his smile, just make sure nothing's happened. He'll go through it again. And I just knew that if I put it in there twice again, he won't notice it. And lo and behold, teaching his lesson, you can tell the rest.
That's exactly what happened. I noticed the first one. I saw it there on the side. It was only a few slides in. I was like, classic Dylan. He's been in here trying to prank me. Well played. But, I'm not falling for it this time. Deleted the slide and then taught the lesson. But yeah, it came up again later on. It's just this full screen image of me just looking silly. And it was funny.
I loved the idea because it was just before your task. So I really wanted this to happen where you were just like, right, okay, everyone, we've had a really good lesson. We've learned so much. Now's your chance to really show off. Here's your task. And you
super focused.
Your warped head.
Yeah, it was warped as well. You stretched it. Another time, you've done this a couple of times, right? And another time, this was, I think maybe before then, I don't know. But another time you did it, when I went out to break duty and I came back in, I was just literally getting my class to come back in for the next lesson. You'd been in my classroom, probably borrowing my stapler as always. And I just thought it'd be funny to put a full screen image just on the screen there. So when we came back in, it was all there. And the best bit about this story was, it just happened to be the one time that I walked in with the deputy head. Never, ever happens. Never happens. But the deputy head walked in with me. And obviously I'm leading all the kids in. He's talking to me as we go in. Looks at the board, and I don't know why, because he's a great guy, but a little bit of me was a little bit like, oh God, I'm worried that he's going to be like, what on earth are you doing? But he just immediately said, Dylan's been here, and then walked off. He just knew it was you, which I thought was very reassuring.
I forgot about that, because you can freeze your screen when you're teaching and stuff. And multiple times I've done the same thing where I've not put it in your lesson, but I'll just come in, freeze your screen. There was one time where I tried to hide your remote so you could.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. I found it immediately.
No, you found it eventually. I knew you'd find it because you need to teach your lesson, but I just thought it'd be funny to send you into a panic for 3 minutes.
As you guys can tell, I'll be ringing a support line soon because Dylan does victimize me at school. There's another time here. He this is years ago.
This is turning into like an agony answer.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to realise at the end of this, you're not my friend at all. You're the ones that were calling me big forehead at school. It wasn't a joke. No, I'm joking. So back in our early days of teaching, Dylan would quite often walk in with his phone up, filming. This is after school, like way after school, with marking and things at this point. And he had this little stress ball, like a little globe. I remember it. Little squishy thing, and he'd walk in with his phone out filming it, like first person hand there, and he'd always try and launch it across the room, see if he could get me with the ball. And he'd such a good shot, it was so annoying. It'd always make me jump because I'd just be hit with his stress ball, and he'd walk off laughing. I always tried to get my revenge on him. I'd go back to his room, phone out, launch the ball, miss him by 4 meters, just embarrass myself. So I never quite got you back for that one.
That's where all those years and years of youth cricket come in handy, Whack of those stumps, because your head's much bigger than a bale, like a Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. Let's leave that there. You've exposed your brain. Yeah, my head's much bigger than a Christian Bale.
Cricket Bale.
Oh dear, Christian Bale. The only time I've managed to slightly get you back, and I can consistently do it, is just any email that's signed off from me and you, because we're the maths coordinators at our school. Any email, it'll be thanks. Hayden, and then I'll put and Dylan. I'll spell his name wrong and put it in font size 4 or something, just to be like, this insignificant man who also did this job with me. The banter.
Right. Anyway, before I get accused of workplace maltreatment of Hayden, maltreatment, mistreatment. Do you know what I need to stop doing on this podcast before we finish?
Go on.
I need to stop trying to use fancy words.
I know, bullying.
Stick to my roots. 2 syllables maximum. Just get through it easily. And,
All right, then. A challenge for you then to finish this podcast. 1 syllable words only, please. End the podcast, Dylan. Off you go.
Okay. I would like to say thanks for hear us talk. And we will see you next time. Bye!